What's up, everyone? Kevin Leslie, and welcome back to another episode of the At the Thousand Training Podcast and solo edition. Today, I want to talk about the erg. And the reason I want to talk about the erg is because we're about to cross into that time of year where the focus now returns to the water, preparing for racing season, being back in the boats, trying to move the boat well, all that fun stuff that we have been training for over the last 3 months when we did spend all that time on the erg and throughout winter training, especially for those teams up here in the Northeast. And the reason I want to talk about the erg is because there's a difference between erging because you have to and erging because you want to. That's a very big difference. There's again, erging because you have to versus erging because you want to. And as you enter the spring season, my recommendation for athletes who aspire to continue to evolve their fitness and take those next steps, don't forget about the erg. Don't forget all that hard work that you put in learning how to really own the numbers, learning how to push your fitness forward, get out of your comfort zone, race on the machine. Don't forget that and figure out where the windows of opportunity are where you can keep the erg as part of your routine. Because oftentimes when we get to this time of year, right, the spring season, especially up in the Northeast, you're just inside all winter. Coaches are going to want to take advantage of being on the water, and rightfully so, right, to get ready for racing season. But for you, as you focus on your long-term vision of continuing to push your fitness forward, the erg has to be a part of that. The erg has to be somewhere within your weekly routine. And where throughout your week can you figure out, right, what is the most consistent time that you can start to incorporate the erg where it's an on your own session. And my biggest recommendation for those athletes who do aspire to, again, push their fitness forward, because the water's not the erg. No matter what way you slice it, the water is not the erg. So if you are going to be continuing to try to push your fitness forward with the erg, where do you fit those where do you fit those opportunities in? And then also, what are you doing in those sessions? Because the last thing that you want to do is do something that's completely outside of what your team's focusing on. And now you're doing your own thing. And now you're showing up to practice, falling asleep because you can't focus, or you're putting yourself at risk of getting hurt. So what should you be doing if you're incorporating the erg into your weekly routine? My recommendation is you want to try to be on the erg 2 times per week, probably somewhere between 40 and 60 minutes of steady state intensity, right? The guidelines that I always give my athletes is 18 to 22 splits off of your 2K PR at stroke rate 18 to 22, right? So 40 to 60 minutes, stroke rate 18 to 22 at 18 to 22 splits off of your PR, right? So if you're a 640 2K, that means that you would be a 140 split per 500 for that 2K, which means you're operating somewhere between a 158 and a 202 for that 40 to 60 minute time block, right? That's the way I would kind of break it down. And can you incorporate that 2 times per week into your routine? And here's the value in that kind of work. Here's why I personally recommend that, right? Because you're going to be doing a lot of intensity with your team. A lot of your short, high rate pieces are probably going to come in preparation for racing, right? And racing season, right? 1500 meter pieces, 2K pieces, whatever it may be. A lot of that really high intensity work is going to come in those 5 or 6 sessions that you're doing with your team. So in that 7th and 8th session, right, whatever it is, you don't need to be pushing the intensity so hard, right? You can kind of stay within that more steady state type volume type training. And again, here's kind of the reason why I think that kind of training is valuable. Number one, it's going to continue to evolve your base, right? That floor, right? It's going to continue to raise that floor for your training and continue to evolve your base, right? And through that, you're going to continue to get confident with owning your numbers, building confidence on the machine, and just really learning how to get really quality work in that 40 to 60 minute time block, right? And again, just building that base. Number two, it's a low tax. It's a low tax type work. And that's a very important piece because if you're practicing with your team 5 or 6 sessions per week, probably the majority of them, if not all of them, are going to be on the water. Again, it comes back to the last thing you want to do is be showing up and only being able to give 70% to your teammates in the boat. 40 to 60 minutes of steady state at 18 to 22 splits off of 2K shouldn't be too physiologically demanding on your body where you can't recover quickly and be 100% for your team. It's not that kind of intensity. You should very well be able to, hey, if you can wake up in the morning and do it, by all means, that is always going to be my preferred time slot. But regardless, you should be able to get that session in, recover, and be able to operate with your team with a little bit of rest and recovery. Or you should be able to practice with your team, go home, eat, because I know this is what a lot of athletes do as well. Go home, eat dinner, rest for a little bit, and then crank out 40 to 60 minutes of steady state, before you wind down, right? Again, to each his own, figure out what best serves you. Again, I'm a big believer in the AM session. If you can get in 2 AM sessions per week before you go off to school, oh man, I think it's a superpower. But a lot of athletes, that's a little bit of that's a struggle. So they'd rather do it in the afternoons. Maybe it's Saturday afternoon if you have practice on Saturday morning, right? Maybe you're resting, regrouping, and you're coming back and you're doing your 40 to 60 minutes on a Saturday afternoon, right? There's nothing wrong with that. And then lastly, this is the most important one. Your on your own sessions are the most controllable sessions of your week. Your on your own sessions are the most controllable sessions of your week. We all know how water sessions or practice sessions can go, right? You go down to the boathouse, right? It might be bad weather where you can't get out in the water. It may be a technical day where you're just going out and you're just focusing on technique, which is obviously very important, right? Getting the blade in and out of water, moving the boat well. It may be a day where you're in a lineup that just ain't clicking and you're struggling to even get your blades in and out of the water as a team. And you get off the water, you're flat because you didn't get the performance or the stimulus that you were hoping for out in the water. There are so many variables that can go into your time with your team, your practice sessions with your team, especially the ones on the water, right? Where you incorporate weather and all those different factors. On your own training is 100% in your control. There's no excuse. You set the time, you figure out where it fits into your routine, you structure it in a way that best suits you, and you have no excuse not to get in those sessions, especially when it's at an intensity, right? The steady state volume type work that is very manageable to do on your own, right? That's easy work to be able to do on your own. And especially if you have aspirations of rowing at the college level, you got to expose yourself to that. You got to expose yourself to being willing to get on the machine and training by yourself. And again, can you set a goal for yourself to do that 2 times per week throughout the spring season? Make that your goal, right? 40 to 60 minutes, 18 to 22 splits off of 2K, right? We all have fresh 2K PRs probably, right? And again, just that low rate, medium intensity volume type work. Set that goal for yourself 2 times per week in March, April, and May, and see how your fitness evolves heading into the summer where you're back into more purely a training phase, right? So again, continue to evolve that base fitness, incorporate that low tax steady state work. And again, the training that you're doing on your own is the most controllable session of your week because you are 100%. It's 100% you, right? It's within your control. It's within your routine. So again, think about those 3 things. Do not let all that hard work that you put in all winter just go to the wayside, right? And the water's not the earth. It's just not, right? It's incredibly valuable. It's why we do what we do. But we still want to push our fitness forward and expose ourselves to the machine in a way that sets us up for long-term success and keeps our vision in sight. All right? That's all I got. If you have questions, let me know. Really looking forward to going down to the race course and watching a lot of athletes compete at a high level down on the course. So if you have questions, please reach out. Other than that, have a good day. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.